The boardroom was a powder keg. Richard Vance slammed the contract and the room went silent.
The indemnity clause is a suicide pact. No lawyer in this city will touch it.
We have until end of day or the merger collapses. Someone find me a solution.
Then the side door opened. Tom Callahan stepped in, mailroom vest on, a package under one arm. He moved like he owned the room, but no one looked up.
You, mailroom, stay in your lane and get out. We're not ordering lunch.
Tom didn't flinch. He placed the package on the credenza and turned to leave.
The indemnity trigger is the delay penalty. That's what's killing us.
Tom's hand froze on the door handle. He knew that penalty. He stepped into the hallway, his expression shifting into something sharp and knowing. Tom walked past the mailroom door, not stopping until he reached the back shelf. From behind a stack of boxes, he pulled a small, sleek device, a prototype he'd hidden months ago.
They thought they buried it, but the indemnity delay was their own contract trap.
He unlocked his phone and scrolled to a saved document, the acquisition that had gutted his startup.
The same penalty clause. Vance Global used it to strip everything I built.
He set the prototype down and straightened his vest. The mailroom felt smaller now.
They told me to stay in my lane. Now their lane is about to shrink.
He tucked the prototype into the delivery package, then headed back toward the boardroom. In the hallway, his footsteps were steady. The same vest, the same package, but everything else had changed. He pushed open the boardroom door. The same hands that had delivered coffee now held a weapon. The boardroom door swung open again. This time every head turned. The mailroom clerk had come back.
You again? I told you to stay out of this room. Out.
And watch the merger fail. I know exactly what's in that indemnity rider.
You have 30 seconds, mailroom. Then security escorts you out.
The delay penalty isn't a standalone clause. It's tied to a cross-default trigger in the restructuring rider.
He circled the clause on the contract, his hand steady as a lawyer's.
You picked that up? Sorting packages? That's specialized acquisition language.
I pick up a lot of things, like the fact that one restructuring subclause from 6 years ago is mirroring this exact penalty.
He's not wrong. The numbers check out.
For the first time that day, the boardroom was listening to the man in the mailroom vest, and David Ross was running the math.
Now, if you amend this rider to exclude the cross-default trigger, the indemnity penalty collapses.
You are quoting contract law like you wrote it. Where did you learn this?
I've had a lot of time to study what comes through these offices.
Even if the theory works, we need legal to sign off. This isn't a classroom.
We don't have time for a legal review. The deadline is hours away.
Then we do it now? I am here. I'll walk them through it.
Fine. We'll review your proposal. But if this blows up, mailroom, you are done. David, find out everything about this clerk. I want his file on my desk within the hour.
I already noticed a gap in his employment history. I'll dig.
The boardroom had shifted. Now they needed to know who the man in the delivery vest really was. David Ross completed the financial model. Tom's restructuring removed the penalty. The merger numbers were solid.
The deal can be saved. I never thought I'd say this, but the mailroom clerk was right.
I don't care about the deal right now, Richard. I want to know who this man really is.
You already know, Tom Callahan. I've been pushing a cart through these halls for 18 months. You see things when no one notices you.
But Tom's words didn't land. David Ross had already opened his employee file, and he was staring at something impossible.
Start date, 18 months ago. No previous employer. No references. This man has no past. Richard, his file. There's nothing before us. No jobs, no education. Not even a previous address.
That's not possible. Everyone has a past.
Tom saw the shift in their posture. The hunt had turned from the contract to him. David tilted his tablet so Richard could see. 18 months of mailroom, and before that, a blank.
Your file says you started here 18 months ago. Before that, there's nothing. Who exactly are you?
I am the mailroom clerk who just saved your deal. You want a reference from my cart.
Richard, the restructuring fix. It's almost identical to a deal we closed 6 years ago. Nexus Point.
David's whisper carried an accusation none of them were ready to voice.
Nexus Point. That was a small tech acquisition. How would a mailroom clerk know that deal's internal structure?
Tom's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened with something almost like amusement. The room went cold. Meredith set down her pen. Everyone saw it now. Tom stood slowly, the package still under his arm, and looked directly at Richard.
I think you are about to ask me a question. But before you do, understand, you'll want to hear the answer in private.
The room no longer saw a mailroom clerk. They saw a man who had been waiting.
You are him, the founder of Nexus Point, the startup we bought out and dismantled 6 years ago.
I am surprised it took you this long. I've been pushing a cart past your office every day.
He didn't deny it. The admission hung in the air, and the room seemed to shrink around him.
18 months in the mailroom. You watched us from the lowest rung. For what?
To understand exactly how you gutted my company. Every loophole, every contract trap.
The board saw it now. They hadn't hired a clerk. They'd invited a man who had been dissecting their playbook.
You want revenge. That's what this is. You've been planning to destroy us.
Revenge would be walking out and letting your deal die. I am offering you the only path that saves it.
The power in the room had completely inverted. The suited executives now looked small. Tom stood at the center, mailroom vest and all, and they waited for his terms. From his vest pocket, Tom pulled a small flash drive and placed it on the polished table.
On this drive is every document proving how you stripped Nexus Point. Asset sales, talent poaching, rigged contracts.
Richard's face drained of color. David's hand froze halfway to his tablet.
You've been gathering evidence for over a year. This was always a siege, not a job.
You built an entire acquisition model on destroying other people's work. I just kept the receipts.
Richard slumped back in his chair, the weight of the situation pressing down.
What do you want? Name a figure. A buyout? Just don't send that drive.
An hour ago, you told me to stay in my lane. Now you are asking me to name my price.
The memory of that dismissal hung in the air. Every board member felt it. Tom didn't reach for the drive. He let them stare at it. The power had shifted permanently.
Here are my terms. Full buyout of the Nexus Point division back to me and a partner track role at Vance Global.
That's not a negotiation. That's extortion. I'll never agree to it.
Tom didn't argue. He picked up the flash drive and walked toward the door.
Call security, Richard. He can't just walk out with that drive.
You can stop me at the door, but my phone sends the documents if I don't check in within the hour.
Wait. Just wait. Everyone, stay where you are.
Tom's hand rested on the door handle. He didn't turn around, but he paused. Richard motioned to Meredith and David. The three executives huddled at the far end of the table, voices low and urgent.
If that drive goes public, we lose everything. The merger, our positions, the company's reputation.
In the hallway, Tom waited, the flash drive warm in his palm, listening to the muffled chaos inside. Tom didn't go far. In the mailroom, he unlocked his phone and stared at the draft press release.
One tap is all it takes. The story of how Vance Global destroys startups.
On the mailroom monitor, the security feed showed the boardroom in chaos. Three voices clashed.
We have no choice, Richard. Give him the buyout. Give him the title. This company can't survive a public leak.
I won't be blackmailed by a man in a mailroom vest.
The financial exposure alone would sink us. Legal, PR, client trust. It's not worth the fight.
Richard's hand trembled as he reached for his glass. He looked at the door, then at his colleagues.
Bring him back in. We'll negotiate.
The door opened. Tom stepped back inside, the flash drive still in his hand, expression unreadable. The faces that met him were no longer mocking. They were waiting to meet his terms.
100,000 and a management position in logistics. You walk away with a clean deal.
I didn't risk everything for a severance package. The division and the partnership, or we're done.
We can offer a senior role in R&D, but partnership means voting rights. That's too much.
I want the Nexus Point team back, the IP, and the same office we once had. That's non-negotiable.
You are asking for half the company's innovation pipeline. We can't just hand that over.
Then this meeting is over. I'll walk, and this company's reputation walks with me.
Richard, give him what he wants. The alternative is ruin. We can't survive a press leak.
The board's liability is personal. If this goes public, we'll be sued individually.
This requires a full board vote. We can't give you an answer today.
The room sank into silence. Tom hadn't moved. The stalemate had hardened into something neither side could break.
The merger deadline is exactly 2 hours from now. Without my restructuring, the deal collapses entirely.
He set his phone on the polished table. The press release headline was stark against the dark screen.
One tap sends it to every major business outlet simultaneously.
David's pen slipped from his fingers and clattered on the table. The threat was no longer abstract.
You have no time for a full board vote. You decide now, or you watch the company burn.
If that story goes public, our stock tanks, and we'll face shareholder lawsuits.
Then you know exactly what you have to do.
You get the division and partnership, but you sign a binding non-disclosure, and there is no public mention of this deal.
Richard nodded once at Meredith, and she opened her laptop to begin drafting the agreement. The boardroom fell into a heavy silence. Tom stood, waiting, the phone timer still counting down. The contract lay on the table, each concession a small defeat. Meredith's bitter expression was fixed on the page. Richard's hand trembled against his water glass, the only sound the steady tick of the phone timer.
The IP transfer clause needs to exclude any derivatives developed post-acquisition. Fix that.
You'll strip the division's value. The board will never...
The board already conceded. Change the clause, or the story breaks.
He circled the clause and wrote the exclusion in the margin, his hand unhurried. He initialed the change with a confident stroke, the smile never leaving his face. Richard's knuckles went white, but he didn't object. His silence was surrender. Meredith typed the amendment. The printer hummed. A clean page slid across the table to Richard. Richard lifted the pen. The nib shook, but he signed. The contract was binding. Tom still hadn't reached for it. Tom's hand closed on the signed contract. He folded it once and slid it into the inner pocket of his vest. Then he reached for the delivery package he'd been carrying all afternoon. He opened it.
I was supposed to deliver this to the archives, but I think it belongs here.
The Nexus Point logo glowed on the device. Richard's face went pale. He hadn't seen it since the acquisition.
He planned this from the start. The device is a reminder of everything we dismantled.
This is the original prototype, the one you told me was worthless 6 years ago.
He picked up the red marker from the table and calmly recapped it. The gesture was unhurried. He placed the prototype on the polished wood, next to the signed contract. The two objects side by side formed a silent accusation. The board stared at the device, their silence heavier than any words. The man in the mailroom vest had delivered more than a package. He had delivered a reckoning. Tom took his time. He pulled the red marker from his pocket and placed it deliberately on the table. Then he walked to the door, each step quiet against the carpet. He paused with his hand on the handle. He looked over his shoulder, meeting each of their eyes in turn.
You told me to stay in my lane. It's a wider lane now.
He didn't wait for a response. The door clicked shut behind him, and the room exhaled. Meredith slumped forward, her forehead touching the stack of papers. No one moved to comfort her.
He's not our clerk anymore. He's our partner.
David was frozen, tablet in hand. The numbers still verified Tom's restructuring, but nobody cared. On the table, the prototype still glowed softly. Nobody reached for it. The boardroom remained silent long after the door closed. Outside, the sun was setting, and the city waited. Tom walked down the corporate hallway, his mailroom vest still on, but the stride was different. He passed the janitor who had nodded to him every morning for 18 months. This time, it was a two-way smile. The elevator doors opened as if summoned. He stepped inside and turned to face the closing corridor.
I pushed a cart through here. Tomorrow I'll push something different.
The car descended without a stop. When the doors opened, the lobby spread before him in polished marble and afternoon light. No one stopped him. The security guard who had never looked up from his monitor didn't even glance. He pushed through the revolving door and stepped onto the street. The city noise hit him like a wave.
18 months. And it all came down to one afternoon.
He pulled the signed contract from his vest and looked at it. The words were ordinary, but the weight was not. He looked up at the building, then at the skyline. He had walked in a mailroom clerk. He walked out something else entirely. The boardroom door had been closed for less than a minute, but the silence had already shattered into accusations.
You handed him the keys to this company. What were you thinking, Richard?
I had no choice. You saw the drive. He had us cornered. What else could I have done?
David was already on the phone, feeding a cover story to the PR team. His voice strained.
No, the merger isn't in trouble. We're restructuring the indemnity provision. It's all standard procedure.
But then something made the argument die. Everyone's eyes found the same thing. Tom's mailroom vest lay draped over the head chair, a silent, undeniable claim.
From now on, that chair belongs to him. He'll sit there while we report to him.
He won't let us forget it. Every meeting, every vote, we'll see that vest and remember.
Outside, the city skyline darkened. The boardroom would never feel the same again. 3 days later, the boardroom was reassembled. But this time, the side door stayed shut. It was the main door that opened. Tom Callahan walked in. The mailroom vest was still there, but now it hung over a tailored suit. Richard, Meredith, and David rose from their seats without a word. He didn't pause. He walked directly to the head of the table and sat, the vest draping over the chair's back.
First order of business, restoring the division you took apart.
No one spoke. Richard's jaw tightened, but he remained standing until Tom gestured for them to sit.
We'll rehire the original Nexus Point team, reclaim the IP, and operate independently within Vance Global.
Meredith's pen hovered over her notepad, but she didn't write. The silence was her signature. Tom leaned back, fingers steepled. The man who had pushed a cart now pushed the entire company, and no one in that room could do a thing about it.
The original Nexus Point team will be rehired immediately. The IP reverts to us. We operate independently within Vance.
As you say, HR will begin contacting them by end of day.
Meredith's pen scratched across the pad, but the note was illegible, a placeholder for surrender.
You'll each report to me on the division's reintegration timeline. I expect a draft by Friday.
The board nodded, not in agreement but in submission. There was nothing left to contest.
This meeting is adjourned. You are dismissed.
They rose, filing out in silence. Richard paused at the door, glancing back over his shoulder. Tom didn't look up. His voice broke the silence.
Something to add, Richard?
Richard held his gaze a moment. then turned and left. The door clicked shut. Tom was alone at the head of the table. Tom stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, the skyline spreading before him like a map of everything he'd just taken back.
18 months, pushing a cart. I know every floor of this building better than its CEO.
He crossed to his new office. The prototype was already framed on the wall, lit from above. On the desk, the delivery package he'd carried that afternoon now held pens.
The same box I brought that day. Now, it holds the pens that will sign my division back into existence.
He hung the mailroom vest over the back of his chair. It looked like a trophy.
I'll keep it there. A reminder of where I started and where they end.
He sat down, the city at his back, and let the stillness settle. 6 years of silence, 18 months of watching, and one afternoon that had rewritten everything. The board that had mocked him now reported up to him, and the man in the delivery vest had closed the deal they all lost. The late evening office was still, the only sound the distant hum of the city below. Tom pulled a framed photograph from the drawer and set it on the desk. The faces stared back, young and hopeful.
We were so young back then, before they took it all apart.
He opened another drawer and retrieved the red marker from that afternoon. Its ink was dry, but the sting was not.
This marker circled the clause, one small circle that rewrote everything.
He capped it with a deliberate click and placed it beside the photograph, a small relic.
The past and the present, side by side. Both are mine now.
He leaned back, the mailroom vest draped over his chair, and looked out at the city lights.
Tomorrow we start rebuilding, but tonight I'll sit here and let it sink in.
The man in the delivery vest had closed the deal they all lost, and his story had only just begun. The boardroom sat empty under the low glow of the city night. The chairs were all pushed in except one. Tom's mailroom vest still lay across the head chair, its fabric catching the faint light from outside. On the table, the Nexus Point prototype emitted a soft blue pulse. It was the only thing moving. The door through which Tom had exited hours earlier remained closed, a thin line of hallway light beneath it. The contracts had been signed, the arguments silenced. Only the two objects remained as witnesses. The prototype that had once been deemed worthless now held the room with its quiet glow, and the vest, a worn piece of navy blue, hung like a flag of conquest over the throne of the defeated. Outside, the skyline glittered on, indifferent to the reversal that had taken place inside. But inside, the air held a different weight. The story had pivoted on a single afternoon, and the man in the delivery vest had closed the deal they all lost.